to call Rod Bailey to join us this morning. Rod has been he's building up the ultimate guide to moving to the country.
Awesome.
He's talking from decades of experience, and he is going to continue that saga with us today this morning. So, Rod, good morning to you. It's great to have you on board with us.
Good morning.
Rod, tell us, remind us a little bit where we are here in the map of making that transition from the city to a country life.
All right. We've looked at all sorts of things, and we're down at the pointy end of it, and that is discussing factors to consider when we're considering a property to purchase. But, I thought we'd go back and back out of the detail for a moment to just review why we've been talking about this for months and months and months.
Okay.
And that is, just briefly, if we go back in history and we think about the time when the children of Israel went into the promised land, it was God's plan for every family there to have a home on the land.
Yeah.
So that they living in the country and having a home on the land provides the means and incentive for a useful, industrious and self-supporting life.
Absolutely.
And, we're thousands of years past that, but no one has ever come up with a better plan. And so, for everyone that's considering moving from their current context to a more rural life, we've been going step by step through the process of considering our own capacity, the resources we have, whether we're ready or not, to making a plan. And we're right down at the pointy end of talking about specific factors to consider when assessing a property to see whether it's suitable for us.
And just a reminder, Rod, all of these episodes are recorded and stored in the Faith FM website. So if you go to faithfm.com.au and you look for Rod Bailey, you will see the complete guide so you can listen to them as a podcast.
Sounds good. So last week we talked about, we started talking about those considerations where we can't change down the track. Like buildings and fencing and other improvements may be important in our decision making, but all of these things can be changed. But there's some aspects of properties that we just can't do anything about. So they're the most important for us to consider. So last week we talked about the climate. Then we also talked about the importance of water. And today I thought we'd talk about location, aspect and topography if we have time. So with regards to location, I'm talking not if it's in New South Wales or Queensland, but more because we talked about that really in the climate, whether on the coast, we're in the mountains, further north, further south. But today I'm talking about location as in distance to town. Because like it or not, as off-grid as we may want to be in our life, we are still going to need a connection to the rest of society. And the distance to town really equates to convenience, whether a person's needing to travel backwards and forwards for work, whether it's proximity or distance to the shops, or maybe the children are continuing to go to school, and then a lot of kids have extracurricular activities. And so distance from town is a really important consideration.
So what have you seen in that regard? So, Rod, I'm just curious, like from your property where you live, how far from town are you? And also wanted to know, just by curiosity, have you met anyone who lived really, really, really far from town, and what impact did that bring?
Yeah, so we're about 40 minutes drive from Port Macquarie. The roads are all tar as opposed to gravel roads, so that makes it easier to travel that distance. And it's just, for us, that's kind of really like the sweet spot. We're far enough away from town. We are living in a very rural location, but we are not so remote that every time we need to go to town, we're thinking, oh, man, I've got an hour's drive on a rough gravel road. It's going to wreck my car, sort of thing. And I definitely have known folk that have decided to go very remote. and it depends on their lifestyle that they've chosen. You know, if they need to make a daily trip to town after only a relatively short period of time, it becomes a very onerous task to continue doing that.
So for these folks that you mentioned live like far away, like how far away are we talking about? Are we talking about 2 hours from the nearest town?
My experience is anything over about an hour to an hour and a half becomes really inconvenient, especially if people are needing to do it on a daily basis. But, you know, an hour and a half is no problem if you're doing it once a week to do a weekly shopping trip.
Yeah. Okay, I've got you.
But so it really depends on the lifestyle that you're choosing. If you're doing your work at home, if you're homeschooling your children, and you need to go to town is a lot less than other folk, then distance, it ceases to be such of a problem.
I understand.
But I also need to riff on the state or the quality of the road. Some rural roads are tar like ours. Others are gravel, and some of those roads are upkept very well by the local council authority, but some are not at all and quickly become very corrugated and rough and potholey, and that just makes it even worse. So the surface of the road going to your property is a consideration, the time it takes you to get to town, and also things like, is the road very windy? When we were considering property in the past, we were working with another family, and their children really did not handle windy roads very easily, and often they'd get car sick, and that wasn't happy. So that was a consideration for them. Another thing is wild animals that you might encounter. Back when I lived in Western Australia. When we were starting a health retreat over there, I think for the first year, not a month went past when someone on our team didn't run into a kangaroo on our road.
Wow.
And here where we are, deer is the problem. I hit a deer in our truck about 6 or 8 weeks ago. So if there's lots of wild animals, that's another thing to consider.
Yes. So what do you do? And then this can cause a lot of damage. Of course, both to the animal, but also to your car. So basically, a bull bar is kind of a requirement.
Yeah, it really depends. A bull bar is a very good thing to have on a vehicle in Australia.
Another thing with roads is like sometimes if you go way out, then like the roads can get cut when there's flooding on occasional rain. Like I know somebody who. Like they moved into their new rural place, and then a week later they were cut off for a couple of weeks with a lot of rain all of a sudden. So,
correct. You know, I'm just looking over the hills here, other side of our valley, and there's about 150 families up in a region of a branch of our valley, and every time it floods, they stay home. So that's a really important consideration. And even we lived for a time in the beautiful Dorrigo Plateau, you know, and that the road from Dorrigo down to Bellingen into Coffs Harbour, the road is often cut with landslips. You know, it sometimes takes weeks or months to open the road and make it trafficable both ways. So, yeah, really, really interesting. You know, all considerations. Some places, maybe there's a lot of traffic on your road too that can be quite a pain, you know, to negotiate, especially around when everyone's going to work or everyone's taking their kids to school or school buses on narrow country roads, log trucks. Yeah, just different considerations that you may not be able to really understand before you choose a possible property, but all interesting considerations.
Yeah, because some of these things I think would come a bit of a surprise factor. I'm imagining like you buy the property of your dreams and also the roads. But from what you're saying is that if you know that there's a place and if you can do a little bit of homework to investigate the roads around the area, all the better, because the roads can end up becoming, if it's a very painful process, you might as well say, you know what, love the property, but these roads, there's no way we can get here.
Sometimes it gets to that point, Joseph. That's exactly right. Other aspects of location is the distance to your neighbours. You know, one reason we're often moving to the country is for elbow room, for space. You know, not to be living on it. But I know of some people that have shifted to the country, but they've chosen a property where the neighbouring house is just 50 metres away. You know, in the old days, often houses were built right on the road for ease of access, but that may mean that you're right next to your neighbour. Maybe that's okay for you, but other people are just like, no. Another thing is the size of your neighbour's property and what they do. You know, these are things that you can't change. You know, if they have a piggery next door and you know, with a westerly wind, you're smelling that.
Or if they've got motorbikes coming on every weekend to ride around.
Exactly. And sometimes you can't always get across everything. And this is why it's important not to make decisions quickly on properties, but ask the people that are selling it, can we come and camp here for a weekend or bring our caravan for a week and, you know, travel backwards and forwards to town a few times, you know.
That is so clever. I'll never think about that, but that's very true, because maybe you can buy something, then you realize, wow, there's a lot of nuisance in this neighborhood here. Wow. I never even thought it would be possible for you to ask, hey, can we just camp here for a week or two just to feel how the area is like? Yeah,
some people would find that really weird, but I'd be happy to do that.
Look, you can say, I heard that on the radio, so, you know, I think that they will be more open to that now.
There you go. So the thing is, do we have the access we need? Is the location suitable for the lifestyle we're looking at? Are we getting the isolation you need? And just lastly on this point, are you so remote that your opportunities for ministry are very scanty? You know, are you going to live in a community? Is this location going to give you a community that you can become part of, becomes friends with your neighbours and those a little bit further afield, so you have opportunity to develop relationships and possibly to minister as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Rod, we have about a minute and a half left. Would you like to start talking about aspect as well, or would you like to do a bit of a summary? What do you prefer?
No, let's just talk aspects a minute. Okay. What we're aiming for, this is the direction the property is sloping. And some places are very undulating, but what we're looking for is a place that is ideally facing the north or the northeast, so you're getting plenty of sun. A south-facing slope that's steep, you're not going to get much sun. You need to ask the question, is the sun going to be blocked by mountains or other features? Is this property in a very steep valley? We have friends that used to live in a valley where in wintertime the sun rose at 11 o'clock in the morning and set at 3 o'clock in the afternoon because of steep mountains around.
Wow.
Yeah, so steepness can really determine the potential of a property. But with regards to aspect, we're looking for something ideally that's facing north, northeast. East is okay, even swinging around to the northwest is okay, but a south-facing slope in Australia, especially if it's steep, can really limit the possibilities for a healthy, happy life, if you like, and agricultural potential.
Yes. Well, these are definitely some very important considerations. We're so grateful that you can walk us through here, Rod, because there's a lot of small little details that we often don't think when we become in love with a property, and like, you know, we fantasize in our dreams. And I love how you're really bringing this back to reality and helping us to ask the hard questions so that this purchase, this move can be done with as much preparation and as much sobriety as possible.